Kevin Luby, how you doing, bud? Maybe you come up for conversation in a bit, but this is a new setup here, so I might be live. I probably think I'm live because you're here in the chat. Welcome to you, bud. And well, I thought I was wacky in my thinking, but some of the things that you come out with are unbelievably wacky. But you know, as with anything, any new thought that's hitting our brains is going to sound strange, and we can't fucking rule anything out anymore. But it's far out there. This new reality we've found ourselves in. What I want to do now is to fucking turn off the camera for a second, smoke this, and sing like I normally do. And not to keep anybody waiting. If anyone's looking at my videos over the last few years, there's generally a gap. Um, I'm looking at myself in the camera as well, as opposed to on YouTube, as opposed to looking at the camera. But there's always been a gap just to get started anyway. Maybe have a smoke at the window. Not saying much in that smoke, you know what I mean? But or whatever. Just give a few minutes for people to come in, and then I can sing my opening song. So what I'm looking for at the moment is the camera button. Otherwise, I don't give a fuck. I'll just smoke this anyway. Come back and sing the opening. Very interesting opening as well. Desperadodo. So that's a dodoism for you, and song itself very meaningful, as are all the songs, especially of the top bands, the ones presented to us, which will have the widest audience earthwide. You know, so I can't seem to figure out turn off the camera. As usual, even if you think you turn off the camera. Okay, let me just see this here. No, I don't want to sort of discontinue access to my camera. I just want to turn it off momentarily. So I still don't actually know how to. Oh yeah, because it always went through Google Hangouts. So this is going straight to YouTube. I'm gonna smoke a cigarette with a little bit of funny stuff in it. I'll be back with you in a second. So you're just gonna have to be staring at the wall. You can look up at the picture beyond and figure out what that might be. Different story attached to that. Nothing is by chance in this earth, but how that picture came to be up on the bedroom wall here. It's a different story, but I think you know what you might be looking at. But I'll get you to think about what you think you're looking at. So in the meantime, let me just have a coffee or tea actually, and let me smoke this one. Can't figure out how to turn off my camera, so too bad. I'm back. I'm back, and oh, good. Okay, let me just go into YouTube. Oh man, friends, we're all of the same kind. I have so much stuff to say, and I wouldn't even know where to begin. So I'm just saying to myself, simplify everything. I might be on for too much longer. I don't know what's happening in my own life and where things are going to go, but I'm going to try keep it. I could do in my own brain right now, right? I could do about 100 shows, each of 6 hours long, talking about one specific topic. One of them would be Alice in Wonderland. I'd read it again for you, and I'd go through it chapter by chapter, um, which is what I did initially about 2 years ago when I started up the PJ channel. But I would do it now, and man, I would have so much to say about each particular chapter. So that that's what I mean, and that's just one specific thing which I don't cast too much thought that way, because ultimately I realize everything it all revolves around the same story, the same core, the flat Earth core, Fe core, the iron core. The core in French is our heart, right? Our heart. So everything external reflects internally, and everything internal reflects externally. But I could do that, but that would. I live my life from minute to minute, from hour to hour, from day to day. So, I mean, if I had some exuberance or some passion about living for the next 30, 40 years, I'm 47 now. Man, I could fill it. I really could fill it. I could write about 10 books at the minute, and just everything I've learned. But as I say, I've just been living from day to day, always expecting this change, and I'm not quite hopeless yet. I'm sort of starting to realize now more and more that 19 is the year. 19 was always the year, and we were sort of hinted, prompted, prepared for it in so many different ways. And I'll go into that a bit later, because again, it gets back to the basics. We cut into the quick, Let me just go into YouTube and see if it's coming through okay, because this is a new setup for me here. So I see Flatter Desperadodo, PJ 15 watching. Excellent. Welcome one and all. Let's just see what the delay time is. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, and I'll look at myself on the YouTube channel and see it. On your marks, get set, go. 1, 2, 3. You see what I did there? That's the sound. So when I say 1 and I put up 2, you're going to skip by it, because you just have the sound first and it paints a picture. But that was incidental. I'm just stupid. I couldn't tell 2 from 1. Okay, right, excellent. There's about a 1 second delay in live streaming. So nice one. So when I whistle, let me whistle Dixie, and you'll be able to tell the difference yourself. So isn't it amazing that in real time, anywhere in the world, you're 1 second apart from me at the most. Excellent. And you know what? Just playing the YouTube back there, I like the harmonies. I like the harmonies that were going on, and the timely fashion that we resonated. So resonance is a big word. Bear resonance in mind. So what I'll do, without any practice really much, and I'll open up as I usually do with a couple of songs. So I hope you enjoy it. And what I will say to you, right? I definitely have to look back at my own hangouts in every sense, because I realize there's clues everywhere and we miss things at the time. There's only with the proper context that we can look back and we can re-examine and see things in a completely different light. Ultimately, the truth is simple, and ultimately the truth comes back to you. Nobody else in this world. Nobody. If I was to ask you to think back to a time, let's say 10 years ago in your own life, when you were in a certain situation, there's only one person, I use the terms lightly, use all words lightly, unless I state otherwise, only one person who can relate that time or that episode in their lives as accurately as they possibly can, or as accurately as is possible, as opposed to anyone else on this planet relating that time. And that is you. That is you. And I haven't said it so much these days, but I've certainly been thinking it. It's all about externalization versus internalization, and that's all there ever is, right? Set your eyes on the inside. Every story's got to do with you, and this uh, involves biblical stories, it involves quotidian stories, it involves fake news stories, it involves every aspect, pretty much every aspect. So yeah, bear that in mind. We have to simplify everything and internalize everything. The one thing I've realized recently, which I think is a major breakthrough as well, every church you walk into, you are walking into your own body. This is a walk through the human form, right? From the heel to the head, from the tip to the toe. Because how couldn't it be, right? Because that's all there is you, my friends. It's you. It's a lonely old station sometimes, but yeah, we remember that this is an experience we're going through. We're in a divided form, literally and figuratively, metaphorically, representatively, etc. We are in a divided state, and it's temporal. It's temporal. We're in time, but when we think about time, time is measured in relation to the sun, right? The son of God, the prime mover and prime shaker. But once we understand what the sun is, everything takes on a different hue. The sun is a reflection of the primary source, and that primary source is not external, and it is external at the same time. We are it. Remember the song "We Are the World," where all the top musicians on earth at the time, I think it was following Live Aid a few years, they all came together and sang "We Are the World." Literally, we can take that. I was thinking about the Bible literalists, and I have respect for everybody in one sense. I love my fellow man. I do understand that there are plenty of actors on this stage, and I would be an actor myself if someone had come along and told me the greater story. But I'm not, and I'm finding it out for myself. But I do see plenty of actors on all sides. We have to be challenged. We have to be tested at every step of the way, only for us to come out at the end of it, or the other side, and realize the truth. And just to go back from externalization, our whole lives we've been taught to externalize things. It's always about someone else. It's always about something else. It's always about some other time. No, every story, and especially the more prominent stories, I listed before in one particular listing anyway, the three most translated books in history: the Bible, the works of Shakespeare, and Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Amazing stuff, amazing stuff. I don't think any of this is coincidence, because these are the books that you can go to primarily to give you the core truth about yourself. It's only in developing the proper eyes, the proper mind, the proper ears, the proper understanding, the proper context can we relook at these stories and realize they're not about somebody else. They're not about fictional factual characters. It's again metaphoric. It's allegorical. It's representative, and it's telling you about you. It's your journey. It's not his story. It's not her story. It's not your story. It's our story, right? So, as is my way, waffling on, but it's okay now because I'm in a sort of a confused setting. So what I'll do is shut the fuck up, get up the lyrics, and do my best at this desperadodo. So yeah, pay attention to eagles first of all. So whenever you see an eagle, let me just say, see, this is what I'm saying. Like I could not waffle on. I know what I'm talking about, right? But I could talk about the significance of the eagle for the next hour, and you're all going to be going, where the fuck are the songs that your man is supposed to sing? But first of all, the eagle is the loftiest bird, right? It can climb to the highest aspects of our realm here. This is all representative of us. We are composed of three different, at their core sections, right? We have the immaterial center, which is our head, the material center, which is our groin. A groin, and I'm going to show you something actually, but I'm not going to show you my groin because I can prove I'm a man in a second in numerous different ways. And you know, tranny is tranny is a dirty word in flat earth at the minute. Arwen has banned me numerous times for just mentioning the word tranny. It's the same with Karen B. It's the same with Nathan Oakley doesn't like tranny, neither does Anthony Riley or Ranty. Ranty hates tranny. Ranty has banned me from my channel for saying that Constance Bruns, who I'd never heard of her on the scene, but suddenly Ranty has a special guest coming on. Constance Bruns. There's a man in a fucking shawl, right, in a scarf, and it's a pair of glasses, but it's a man in a woman's garb. It's obvious. So when I say, "Who's your man?" I get banned, you know, and that's it then. What am I, flat earther since 2013, been pretty much here from the start. I shouldn't be, it's not a boast or anything. That's, in one sense, it's like, what have I done with my fucking life? In another sense, then. Yeah, I'm banned, and, you know, that's it. No more said, no more done. That's it. Shut it off there. You can't say the obvious. This is, I think it's sort of revealing the card in one sense. I think everything that we are exposed to, we were meant to be exposed to, and we got to think about it ourselves and work out exactly what's going on. I have nothing against anybody, and Patricia Steer knows this as Mark Sargent. A very interesting realization about Mark Sargent as well. Mark's Argent, I should say, or Mark Sargent Peppers. But that's the choice of name. We know that Mark Sargent, he passed himself off now as Mark K. Sargent. Sargent is an anagram of strange, but Mark tells us that he was a conspiracy-minded man, learned lots of stuff from the internet, but never had an internet presence, mind you. You can search my internet presence way back to 2010 when I came on the internet for the first time in 10 years. In 10 years. And that's another interesting story why I wasn't anywhere near the internet for 10 years. Everything for a reason. But when I did come on the internet, you can search it was only a matter of time before I joined a forum and started contributing. One of those forums was letsrollforums.com, cluesforums.info. Fakeologist was another one, early doors. Loads of talks there with me and many other contributors talking about much of the stuff that people are talking about today. You know, even to mention 9/11 media fakery today is more taboo. And you're going, what the fuck is going on? I understand now why it is, you see, because the whole place is populated by actors. And when you take on a role, you can play the role of the good guy or the bad guy. You can take on the suit, you can wear the suit of the opposition, or what's the opposite of opposition? Whatever that is, anyway. I'm trying to think now what it is. Opposition, proposition, the opposition or the propositioners. Nice one. If that's not a word, that's excellent. Now, if that's not a word beforehand, the propositioners. So it's within a sort of a theatrical arena that you take a role, you choose yourself, or you're given one side or the other. So the opposition or the proposition, you know, because that's all it is. I've often said the flat Earth is just the beginning. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, any of these characters that you're pretty sure they are characters because you realize, hang on, they're happy enough to talk ad infinitum about the same issues over and over again and repeat themselves again and again and again for whatever purposes. Some say it might be money. Some say it might be for want of clarity, you know, and for want of keeping the path narrow and focused. But for whatever reason it might be given, you'll understand that, well, you should do anyway, that at this stage, we learn more about people and their motivations by what they won't talk about over what they will talk about. So once you've come past that path, well, where to go next is the big question, right? Well, see, See what I'm saying about waffling? I told you to waffle. So, but getting back to the eagle is for the loftier heights. We are the immaterial. We are the material growing, and we are the heart center. HU man. Everything must go through the heart because the heart is the bridge between the immaterial, more specifically the pineal gland, right at the very center, then to the heart, and then to the groin center. When we think about the regenerative center, no life, the most beautiful thing in existence, the human form, the human child, right, created when the sperm meets the egg, getting back to basics. Um, Nothing more miraculous, nothing absolutely more miraculous. And I was talking about contrast earlier on. This is where the heliocentric model comes in, or the Big Bang model. The Big Bang is a euphemism for a fuck or a screw, or in more plain terms, a sperm given the opportunity to meet the egg to create, right? And it's only with the interaction between the immaterial, the thought, right? Thought, and the material, which is the groin center, the womb, um, um, that this beautiful miracle is brought into being. So this is what everything comes back to. Don't fool yourself anymore. Get fucking simple, like children we must become. It's something that we all have to deal with, our sexualities. I can only ever speak as a man, but it is a pressing thing from the moment that you become sexually aware to, I don't know, I mean, what am I, 47 now? I reckon, whatever, doesn't matter to what day, well, I have a whole different series of thoughts about that, but I reckon, should I live out a normal life to, maybe, let's say, 80 years, my sexuality would be always an important prime or a potent factor in my life, you know. And this is needs must as well, because we are in a divided state, male from female. So yeah, I always do. If you bear with me, I always do get back to the point eventually, and I sort of connect all the points together because I remember well exactly where I went from when I started talking about certain things. But yeah, we are ultimately comes back to we are in a divided state, male from female. The female genitalia and the male genitalia are one and the same. One is the shadow of the other, or the penis and the testicles and the vagina and the, I don't know about that sort of stuff, really. And I certainly don't over the last few years. It's been a barren period, but that's okay as well. But one is sort of pulled from the other. You can imagine the penis being stretched into the vagina and the testicles becoming the ovaries and the fallopian tubes, etc., connecting down to the main canal, birth canal. This is what's happening, friends. We have been consenting, I think, as well, because we are greater beings. We are whole, and it all resides primarily in our pineal gland, which has to be crystalline, by the way. So this is another matter. Crystalline. We are of a crystal source. So yeah, we have to re-examine everything we're told, especially in conspiracy circles, right? Because the path is paved for us at every step. So in other words, for instance, when we get to 9/11 and we see that there's something wrong and a dog with a mallet up his arse, right, sideways, would be able to tell that there was something wrong with the 9/11 story, because every single aspect of it was problematic and was prepared, laid out for us in that sense. When us of inquisitive minds, which is all of us really, but especially us who actually went down that pathway, were primed to make our way towards that particular stall. Do you understand? So the people who are, I'm not going to even say the people, there's a greater power here. I often say this, right? And I don't give a fuck. I'm just speaking from my own point of view. If you ask me to prove something, you as an individual, if you were here and you were going to become my future wife, or you were going to be a good friend of mine or something, over time, and you asked me desperately to prove what I was saying, I'd try my utmost, because I would say, you're worth it to me. I mean, you're worth the effort. And this is what I really and truly hold. Same hands that wrote the works of Shakespeare, wrote the works Shakespeare himself, invented character, also wrote the Bible in and around the same time, 1611. Our Earth here, in its current form, is very young indeed, 420 years. This year, come Easter, Ishtar, Aristarchus Sunday, Rise Erection Sunday, it will be 421 years since the dodo bird was discovered, right? It turns out that Easter Sunday this year is April 21st, which is 421, right? So 421 since the dodo bird, a non-existent dodo bird, was discovered. What does the dodo bird represent? It's a metaphorical tale, a metaphorical story of us, right? It's telling us our true story, our true history, right? Her story, our story, our story, our story. So, but yeah, of just in a nutshell, what it does represent and how it ties into Easter Sunday or Ishtar Sunday or ARISTARCHUS Sunday. Dodo bird came into existence when the Earth, in its previous form, was destroyed. Right. This is what the dodo represents. When we came to flat Earth, Gleason's map is waiting for us at the door. Everything is mirrored, everything is inverted. And if you think that's a bit fantastical, you think you know what you look like fuck you do. Like fuck you do. What you think you look like is the mirror of yourself. So when you get up every morning, you look in the mirror, you go, yeah, that's me. You know, if you were to meet yourself face to face, you'd say, hang on, there's something wrong here. You know, oh, well, I can't say you would actually do that, but ultimately, my point is what you think you look like, you look differently to others. You're a mirror image of yourself. So just that mirroring itself plays a massive part in our reality, from that very personalized perspective on oneself to the external, where when we look at the night sky, if you will, we're looking at an invisible boundary between us, right, the earth realm, and the saline waters beyond. It's salt waters beyond. When there was destruction, when the apple is a toroidal field, right, of an intact system, a tree above it, a tree below. When the apple was bitten, right, which was the decapitation above, then the barrier, the bubble collapsed, right, and the same energies were emanating, but yeah, we had an inundation of saline waters from beyond, and this is where all the Earth's oceans come from. This is where it was in a state 420 years ago, as I say. 1598 was year one, or year zero, whatever you want to call it, year one or zero. 1 and 0, by the way, is Io. Io is the theta. It's the circle, right? The circumference, and it's the diameter. The relation between the circumference of a circle and the diameter is 3.14 to 1. This is a relation known as pi. 3.14 in mathematical terms would indicate that you can multiply them. When you multiply 3 by 14, what do you get? You get 42, right? And 42 is said to be the answer to life, the universe, and everything, by Douglas Adams in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It is the right answer, but it's not quite the right answer. We'll remember the mirroring or the laws of reversal. Invert or reverse everything to get closer to the truth. And well, we come upon 24, and well, I could tie that back into Mark Sargent, and he's the choice of his name, Mark K. Sargent. And what I consider to be the ultimate letter is numbers code, which is the code dodo. People have been listening before, definitely heard me talking about the code dodo. Absolutely, nearly certain of it now. There's no, you know, it's so simple. It's very, very, very simple indeed. But when we examine Mark Sargent's name, Mark K. Sargent, particularly, we get 24, 24, or 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. And it all goes back to the 8 ultimately. Yeah, again, that's a different story. That's sort of, in a broad sense, connecting the external to the internal and understanding that continuous relation is always in play. So we can never forget that. But yeah, saline waters beyond. The apple, the biotechnology of the apple was when, at the core, right, the tree of life, Aristarchus, was decapitated. And what we had then was a collapsed center. So we live in a bi-ball system, a double barrier. So imagine a bubble collapsing. Just think about it. Think about it yourself. How would it collapse? The tree of life, right, which was emanating in all directions and taking the weight, if you will, taking the load, that's cut off. That's what we remember at Christmas time, by the way. And we put the decapitated tree onto an X, right? X marks the spot, and we artificially added up with one particular star at the top, and that star is Polaris, right? Polaris, Aristarchus, all different clues for us. It's only when we have the context that, well, it seemingly fits into place. I'm not saying I'm right about anything, I'm not saying I'm right about everything. I'm just saying that this is the story as I read it, and the more and more I go on, the more and more it makes sense. We are Aristarchus. Aristarchus is us. We are the tree of life. You know, we are branches on the tree of life, and we are more than that, though. That's the thing. This is all a construct, and it's a very recent construct as well. Time is meaningless, and as we talked about earlier on, time is only measured in relation to the sun and its transit, its arrival, its departure. When we understand what the sun is, then we can have a slightly different take on time. Time as an anagram is me, it, me, it. Now you've heard the expression Holy Spirit, right? Holy Spirit. How might you apply that to yourself? Let me tell you that the Holy Grail, whole E is one side of you, right? We put an E and an E together, right, as one side, and the other in union down in the center. We have a spine. It's all got to do with you. The Holy Grail, the Holy G rail, whole E, G rail is the spine, which connects the immaterial to the material centers, right? Via the heart. Everything has to go through the heart, and this is what the 8 represents. We're told that the left brain controls I'm pointing actually to my right side here. So if I was looking in the mirror, I'd point to my left side, of course. But what you're seeing, I think you'll see me pointing to my right side. Okay, that's fair enough. But I can't see through your eyes. But we're told that the right brain controls the left side, and the left brain controls the right side. So if we're to connect the material, immaterial, and the material through the heart center, what we're going to get is what? An 8. Perfect. An 8 is the twisted 0. So I talked about IO or 10, right, with the X. IO is the relation, it's the diameter of a circle, which is the 1, to the circumference, which is the 0. Now, the 1 represents all things that are countable or all things that are material, right? The material is quantifiable. 0 represents all things immaterial, the uncountable. There's 2 terms in mathematics that go undefined, and they are, there's probably more as well, but primarily 0 and infinity. It's no coincidence that when we get the 0 and twist it, we get the infinity. So everything is nothing in one sense, and nothing is everything. When we apply it to ourselves, as I said, understanding that we are divided down the center, not perfectly mirrored, but we are fundamentally divided down the center. We have 5 fingers on one hand, 5 fingers on another hand. And this is what I talk about. We're all born in sin, right? And what does that mean? You know, how can we make sense of this, right? So when we understand we're in a divided state, we can understand the word sin. We can break it down into ISN. Now, in code dodo, we'll just quickly go through this for any newcomers here. Code dodo is a number-letter relation which pivots around the I and the J. There's an equivalency between the two, and there's many different clues to tell us that. And I presented all of this before. We've all seen the Jesuit symbol, the IHS. You can find representations where the I is changed to the J, and it's the JHS, and there we see the fractured sun. There we see the all-seeing eye, if you know what to look for, and just the points of 1,000 light. These are different symbols that have been used throughout, I'm going to say history lightly, but representing something in particular. And well, we'll find out what that is. I mean, if you've been here following some of the stuff I've presented over many different hangouts now, we've matched up this Jesuit sun to Aristarchus, creator Aristarchus, which we can see in its reflected form via the crater on the moon, and we can see this splinter-like pattern, and we can match the two, or at least we can know the similarity or the equivalence and take it from there, which is what we have done. But yeah, the IHS and the JHS. So we've been told that I and J are equivalent, right? And even looks wise, they are equivalent, but there's many more different reasons. Jesus in English, for instance, begins with a J. Jesus in Irish, Isa, IOSA, begins with an I. So when we understand it's that equivalency, then the code dodo, which is what I call it, if anyone else has come up with it, it's outside of my direct knowledge. I don't know. If I was influenced subliminally somewhere or other, maybe that's all right. But I have no conscious recollection of that such an influence. So let me just go through it briefly. And as I say, the more I would say investigate, I'm a shit researcher in the sense that I'll just sort of I'll come to some realization. I just move on. I won't spend days or weeks even writing down and find out everything about that particular thing. I'll just leave it and go on to the next thing. And that's just the way it is, you know. So that's what I mean by that. But I have found out some fantastical things. It's my own reckoning, right? Considering how I thought before, and if I came along and met myself from 10 years ago and told them all this sort of stuff, it would be like, you know, what would you say? You wouldn't even let this geezer get beyond the first or second sentence. But yeah, so let me give you the code dodo. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, E is 5, F is 6, G is 7, H is 8, I is 9, J is also 9, right? Then we go back down, so it's up and down. K is 8, L is 7, so we can see the L in this construction. If you flip it around, if you mirror it, you get a 7, right? M is 6, N is 5, so as we're talking about the 5, we have 5 on 5 on one hand, 5 fingers, 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5. Well, I don't have 5 toes. That's what I was going to show you earlier on. If you can still see me. Yeah, I think everything's coming through okay. You can still see me. Yeah. 5 fingers, I have 5 toes. I have 5 toes on the right foot. On my left foot, I had an accident when I was 18, which resulted in an below knee amputation of my left leg. So I don't think there's any doubt, unless I'm amazingly efficient with camera work. That's an amputation I have. Not new, but I've seen a lot of comments sort of doubting who I am, especially about trannies. When I mention trannies, I'm called a tranny myself, and there's some vivid language used. When I was on a particular hangout, Dave Weiss was there there was a few different goal earthers or whatever, ignorant people, I'm going to say, you know, in terms of not knowing. They just don't know, right? But in the chat were all the potato crew, Patricia Steer, Karen B, Globebuster, Bob, Bling Bling, and a few others as well. And I didn't go in to talk about anything controversial. I didn't, you know, try to stir up trouble, but I still did comment on something that was said. And then tranny came up, as it does, but I wasn't particularly aiming it at anybody. But before you knew it, then everyone was calling me a tranny, and Pete as she. Pete Shea is Pete as she, right? So this is all encoding. So I'm supposed to be a sort of undercover tranny, but pretending not to be a tranny, pretending to be straight, but the clue is in the name and all of this sort of stuff. And there was some sort of pretty strong language used, or pretty graphic language used. Shaved dicks were brought into it, which I'm kind of thinking, what am I supposed to be? A female pretending to be a male with a strap-on dick or something? So why would shaved dicks come into it? That's what Patricia said to me, and I didn't get it at the time, but yeah. Whatever, you know, it's sort of concerted effort against certain themes. But once again, when we sort of have a context for everything, we needn't be so judgmental. People are playing their parts, and these parts could be being played for the very best of reasons. We can just acknowledge certain things, acknowledge actors when we see them, and make it known if we're not of the deceptive kind. Because remember, I'm not wearing any suit. If you're wearing a suit, that's fair enough. You know best the reasons for that suit. But I'm not wearing any suit at all. Actually, I'm completely naked, balls naked. I'd prove. Look, I can prove by my fingers here. Look. Just the digit ratio itself. That's a good indication of male. Look, my huge hands. My hands are pretty big. I can show my body. Show my Adam's apple here. So many different things. My shoulder to head ratio. So yeah, I'm not bothered about sort of proving myself, but the reason I mentioned that, yeah, back to we learn more about what people won't talk about over what they will. But when you do learn that, then you needs must have to move on, because there's more to this greater story. We can point out deception, or we can point out shenanigans or whatever, and not dwell on it. You know, or you can dwell on it, but make sure to leave room for the greater story, the further story beyond. I'm going to try wrap it back up now to where it was coming. So how do I tie this back into egos again? Remember, I did warn you. I said I could do about fucking 100 shows, and each one just dedicated to one particular topic. So don't blame me for this. And to bring it back to the egos, yeah, ego reach lofty heights. This is the immaterial aspect to our being, which when our body goes, we return to that form. I think that united form. We are indivisible by nature. We are creators, but we are here, you know, to bring two together, right, to form one. And this is where the miracle of life, which is where we all came from via the sperm and the egg. This is the core of everything. And this is what we all realize intrinsically. And once we let all of the rest go and bring everything back to basics, we can see exactly how we've been externalizing things for too long. But the eagle, yeah, whenever you see the eagle, yeah, this is what it represents, these loftier immaterial aspects to ourselves. Then we have the material aspects. Again, we're in a divided state where the male is torn literally from the female, and we spend our lives trying to reconnect, you know. And we can do it alone. We can do it alone. As male, anyway, I can't speak for female. I think females are probably that step beyond males. I really do. They're less mind-based. They're more heart-based, I think, is the general theme. But because we are having this experience, everything has to go through the heart, right? We are this material being, with the material and the immaterial aspects to us. But because we are having this experience, which is a limited experience, everything does have to go through the heart. And this is the intersection point of the 8, right? So I could speak lots more about that, but I'm going to sing now. And hopefully, hopefully everything comes through okay. That's what I'm talking about. That's some introduction, isn't it? And you're as wise now as you were when you were coming in. You know something has been said, but you're not quite sure what the fuck exactly it is. Imagine how I feel. Just a small guitar as well. And if you're joining me, you might notice I'm back in the family home here in the bedroom. I suppose broadcast most of my hangouts from. So it's a different story. How long I'm here, I'm not sure, but we'll talk about that a bit later. Let me give this a go. I haven't sang this in an age and a half, and I'll just do 2 songs tonight. And this one is Desperadodo. Yeah, so once again, these bands are put in place, and all of the lyrics are very meaningful. It's just about us having the proper context, applying it to ourselves, but also applying it to the external world. I'm talking about in its construct of what it is, making that bridge, and understanding between the internal and external. Okay, so here we go. Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? You've been outright offensive for so long now. Your heart, just get used to it. You've got your reasons. These things that are pleasing you can hurt you somehow. Won't you know the queen will dance for you? she'll be too. She's oh, the Queen of Hearts is always your best bet. Now it seems to me some fun things happen upon your table, but you only want the things that you can't get. Desperado, no, you ain't getting no younger. Your pain and your hunger, they are driving you from your freedom. It's just some people talking. Your prison is walking through this world all alone. Don't you think it cold in the wintertime? The sky won't snow and the sun won't shine, when it's hard to tell the nighttime from the day. But when you're losing all your highs and lows, ain't it funny how the feeling goes away? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? Come down from your fences and open the gate. It may be raining, but there's a rainbow above. You better let somebody love you. You better let somebody love you. You better let somebody love you before it's too late. You better let somebody love you. You better let somebody love you. You better love before it's too late. Oh, that was, I shouldn't comment. That was pretty shit. I'm sorry about that. And the guitar doesn't sound great as well. That was one of those moments where I was sort of caught between singing it out loud and singing it softly. But I'll try to do a better job in this one, which is what I'm used to singing. I give thee all I can, no more, no more than offering my heart, enter on the store that I can give to thee. A lute whose gentle sound reveals the soul of life. And that for a heart that feels much more than you can tell. Though love and song may fail, alas, to keep lifestyles away, at least 'twill make them lighter pass or give them a face today. And even if care at moments flings a discord o'er life's happy strain, oh, let love but gently touch the streets will all be sweet again. Oh, let love but gently touch the streets will all be sweet again. Well, not to worry. That was desperate. That was desperado though. If I had to say so myself, now that would be definitely one of those takes that you just toss in the bin straight away. But yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. I did what I could do at under the circumstances. Well, yeah, the first song, Desperado, right? So let me just read it as I do, and just pay attention to the lyrics, right? What again? How does it apply to you, right? And people like the Eagles, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, all of them were put in place. All of them are actors on the stage. David Bowie, all these fake deaths are like waking you up. All these Mandela effects, they're all waking you up to the true nature of reality, right? Which is, you mightn't get there yet, or it might take a while to get there, but you might understand pretty immediately that, hang on, it's not anything like I thought it was at all. So, yeah, when we look deeper at influential bands earthwide like the Eagles, and we look at a song like Desperadodo, that's a dodoism. Anyone who's not aware of a dodoism, anywhere you have do, you can throw in another do to include a dodo in it. And the better context, I suppose, in relation to what I say the dodo is, the dodo I mentioned earlier on is the changing face of the earth. So yeah, that's what we're winding back to again. Are working my way to the face of the earth post inundation, post destruction. So something was destroyed. We had a collapse of the bubble. We had an inundation, which is the earth's ocean, and we had a changing face of the land. This is what the dodo represents, the literal changing face of the land. So when we came to flat earth, the Gleason's map is given to us. We understand then we're always meant to come to the sort of law of reversal, or the mirroring inversion principle, when we turn the map upside down. So Australia is at the bottom, where it's always has ever been, as far as every map I've ever seen has represented anyway. When we do that, a certain bird jumps out at us, especially when we think about draining away some of the water, right? Or the inundating waters like the Mediterranean Sea, for instance, bridging the gap between Ireland and England, or the Philippines, or the Gulf of Mexico. Then a certain bird jumps out at us, and it's unmistakably the dodo, and we know it's the dodo, not scientifically, right? But we know it's the dodo because the dodo is ingrained in our consciousness from the earliest of stages, and we were always meant to make these connections, little clues, or puzzle pieces placed along the path. Puzzle pieces placed along the path. So yeah, anyone out there, just remember, it's you just asking these questions if you want to know. Yeah, this shit is easy for us. So pay attention, casually pay attention, don't force the issue. So let me just go to the lyrics anyway. The Eagles, Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? Who's the desperado, first of all? Why don't you come to your senses? You've been out riding fences for so long now. Oh, you're a hard one, but I know that you've got your reasons. These things that are pleasing you can hurt you somehow. Don't you draw the Queen of Diamonds, boy? She'll beat you if she's able. The Queen of Hearts is always your best bet. So we ask ourselves, what's the distinction between the Queen of Hearts and the Queen of Diamonds, right? The heart is always the heart center, but what's the distinction between the king and the queen? We remember from Alice in Wonderland, the Queen of Hearts was always going about looking for heads to be taken off for decapitation. I've connected this so many times before. I mean, this is a reference to the ARISTARCHUS, which has been decapitated above. The tree of life has been decapitated above, and it's in a divided state, which is what we are as well. So, yeah, sorry. Anyway, the Queen of Hearts is always your best bet, right? So again, everything has to go through the heart. Now it seems to me some fine things have been laid upon your table, but you only want the things, or you only want the ones that you can't get. I always sang that you only want the things that you can't get. Desperado, oh, you ain't getting no younger. Your pain and your hunger, they're driving you home. And freedom, oh freedom, well, that's just some people talking. Your prison is walking through this world all alone, because we are all alone. We are in a divided state, male from female. Can't speak for females. How can I? But from males, yeah, there's a longing. There's a sort of a haunting absence And I think in one sense we all feel it. Like, you know, as I say, I can't speak for anyone else actually, for males or females, but me being a male, you might think, hey, he's pushing a bit much about the male thing, isn't he? Maybe he's not a male after all. It's just a very sort of deluxe model of tranny. No, I can only ever speak as I am, and there are basic distinctions, divisions in life, right? And that is the primary ones, male and female. So, you know, if I can speak for any, if either of those two, I can speak better for the male aspect than I can't speak at all for the female aspect of things. And that's a question I actually asked to Orphan Red when she came on Jamie Brown's one night and started giving shit out to me. And I never even spoke to her before, but she lumped me in with all men, or not with all men, or, you know, just a stereotypical view of man's view of woman. And I said, hang on, you can't speak for me. You don't know what it's like to be a male, and neither do I know what it's like to be female. So there's that fundamental divide there. But I also told her, don't be pushing any other baggage on top of me. Take me as you find me and find out my points of view. Your prison is walking through this world all alone. Don't your feet get cold in the wintertime? The sky won't snow and the sun won't shine. It's hard to tell the nighttime from the day. You're losing all your highs and lows, and it's funny how the feeling goes away. I think it is, right? Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? Come down from your fences and open the gate. It may be raining. Rain is in Ra, by the way, in Ra. Ra is the sun, R-A-U-R-A, Adam, the apex, right? Again, immaterial. This is what it is. When we leave our bodies behind, we go back to in relation to how we view things now, to that immaterial state, right? Was the figure of 5 grams? You lose 5 grams upon death, you know. So yeah, that's spirit leaving us, or that core essence, wherever it resides. Possibly in the heart, but it doesn't matter where it doesn't matter where it does reside, but there is that core essence that is there. And when we leave behind the material and we return to I can't think of any better word, but that immaterial core. So in Ra, yeah, so that's what A represents. V, when you turn the A upside down, Adam and Eve, the material. Remember, Adam named all the animals. You have to have a brain, you have to have a thought to name stuff, right? Name is an anagram. Amen. So Adam and Eve, then Mother Earth, right? This is the generative center. So it's not external to you. We have Adam and Eve within us, right? So this is we're talking about externalization versus application to our own truth, our own being. How the fuck can we imagine the life of someone else? You know, we just can't do it. Not to mind someone else 2,000 or 4,000, 6,000 years ago. It's an impossibility. We can't do it, and therefore we can't relate to it, and therefore it's not true. It's not a true interpretation, right? Because we are the greater players in this great game of life. So if it doesn't make sense to us, if we can't relate to it, then you have to discard it. This is what I often talk about, the Bible literalists waiting at the door of flat earth for us and sort of ingrain their way into the argument as well. John Quantum Eraser is a perfect example of a Bible literalist herself, or himself. Paula, it could possibly be a transgender to me. It sounds like a man trying to pretend to be a woman. That doesn't even matter. That's no judgment on the person playing the role. They seem very nice people, but they are stuck in their ways. They are stuck in their ways, and what they bring after all of the logical and reasonable arguments is a belief that the Bible is a literal true story. We cannot sway from it. So we have to be aware that this is the great game. There's no better way of putting it. The game of life was a game it came out in the 80s. We had it here. I don't think many people had it. It was along the lines of Monopoly in a sort of a different sense, a more visual, adventurous sense, I think. And we had it for a while, and we certainly played it a few times, but it wasn't one that caught on. But I think purposefully so as well, you know. The more glaring clues are the ones less ventured into, I guess. I've often said that about Aleister Crowley, that veneer of evil, you know, that veneer of darkness will scare most people off. For me, not well, I didn't never delved into I never read any of the books of Aleister Crowley. Just went through my YouTube search or Google, not even YouTube, just when I was reading my reading days on forums, for instance, Above Top Secret, David Icke forum. You get all links and you read bits and pieces about these characters. But yeah, that veneer of evil, that veneer of darkness. Once you can see to that and realize, yeah, hey, come on, it's just another story in one sense. Then you'll see that these characters and what they have produced or said to have produced are loaded with truths more so than the more accessible. You know? So yeah, so the same way, see, I could go off on a tangent there, just talking about maybe raining. Rain is in Ra, right? But there's a rainbow above you, a rainbow. So let me just see. Rainbow in Ra, bow. Now a bow takes what form? A dicky bow. A bow is an 8, right? In Ra, a bow, 8. I'm gonna do this actually. Oh no, see, I can't do it now to share screen. Maybe I'll try. I'll bring it up anyway. So let me just tell you what a rainbow signifies, and you can make the decision yourself here. I better be careful actually here. I don't want to be porn bound. I don't think that's possible anymore. I think maybe they fixed it or something. As I said, I'm not used to being on this format. I'm going to open that with Paint. So I'm going to ask you what you can see yourself. If I can just go into control room. Shit, see, I don't know how to share this now, do I? How do you share a screen here? I have no idea how to share a screen. Well, all I was going to show you was a picture of Aristarchus. Aristarchus is the sun, right? It's the singular source of all luminaries. This is the giant tree when it's cut at the north center, right? This is where everything is emanating from. So the bite of the apple represents when Aristarchus was decapitated. We had an inundation of the waters beyond, a changing face of the land, which is what the dodo represents, and yeah, we get to see Aristarchus in all its glory from the moon, well, from the whole universe. Actually, when we look into the heart of Aristarchus, we're actually looking at the universe as it is expressed in a reflected pattern against the watery mirror-like electromagnetic sky. And more particularly, when we look at the moon, we can see crater Aristarchus, creator Aristarchus in its reflected form. All craters on the moon are one crater. It's just simply one crater, just looking at, imagine a cloud, right? So imagine me and you are looking at a cloud, right? And you're in France, I'm in Ireland, and we're looking at the same cloud. I mean, that's a bit too far, but you know, a significant distance anyway, maybe 30 miles, let's say 30 miles away. I'm looking at the cloud, and you're looking at the same cloud from a different perspective, different angle. You might say different magnification. I might be a little bit closer, you might be a little bit further away. But upon due investigation, we can see that, or we can prove that as an objective fact, that it is the same cloud. This is what we're seeing when we look at the moon. We're looking at the same thing, right, from multiple different perspectives, infinite different magnifications. Hard, strange as it is to sort of conceive of, I've been saying it for the longest of times. I certainly haven't swayed from it. I know that that's the case. We're looking at the same thing in a kaleidoscopic sort of reflective manner when we look at the moon. And it's the same thing with the sun. I could bring you up pictures if I see. This is for one of those other shows I could do. Bring you up pictures of the sunspots, right? And some very, very clear pictures there. And when you see it, and I hold it up next to the moon, and particularly crater Aristarchus, you can see all of the different subtleties that you're saying. This just looks very close. The calls for further investigation here. On further investigation, then you can make the call, or you can at least put a tick in the possible box, and then move on to other comparisons. So yeah, this is what I mean when I say Aristarchus is the singular source of everything. But I don't know how to share a screen here on this screen. I really don't. I don't know where the controls are. You know what I mean? I don't want to really click anything. Hang on. I don't want to really click anything. Can anyone help me in the chat? I probably should say hello to people in chat. Hi people in chat. I'm sorry about my oh, you can't from YouTube. Okay, Chris. I don't know. Yeah, the settings. Thanks, Chris. They changed it from the beta settings or something. As I said, I haven't done a hangout in 3 months now. I think just by pressing something in the corner here, I can certainly share the link. Can I? I'm not sure. I mean, if I wanted to, if I wanted to put out the link, if someone wanted to come in for a chat, I wonder how you do that. Okay. Okay. No, let me just say, truth is truth. Not at all. Not at all bad. The only sun footage you've seen is from NASA. Not a chance. There's millions, there's hundreds of high altitude balloon footages out there. And when we get beyond a certain point where there's no sort of watery interference, right? You can see the sun in its true form, and in that form, it resembles for all the world a reflection, more so a reflection of a crater. It's like you're looking into something. So I've been through this. I've been through this before, and I'm not raging. I can't post images, but or share. You can't even share your screen, right? That's ridiculous. Uh, so you can't even share your screen on anything here, right? At all. That's ridiculous. Okay, I don't know how I went onto YouTube. I mean, normally when you clicked on the YouTube link, you would go to a live stream, and then it would automatically connect via Google. So I'm after doing something wrong, or else the whole that doesn't make sense though. That why YouTube would take over that function, but they'd retard it, like they'd put it back, and they wouldn't allow functions that you could normally access quite handily and easily. But well, it is what it is. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess it's me talking then. Sorry about the guitar there as well. Yeah, when I'm just playing away to myself, I'm happy enough with the basic sort of sound of it. I don't need to. Yeah, it is what it is. Like so, but yeah, sorry if that was an earful for most of you, especially after such a long respite here, 3 or 4 months since my last hangout. Well, see, okay, well, thanks, Benjamin, but I don't have OBS. At least I don't think I have, anyway. I don't see any functions. All I have is YouTube control room, and that's it. Yeah, nothing else is coming up. I have a few feedback options, send feedback, and end stream. It's very basic ones at the bottom, and I don't want to press like YouTube home at the top, because that's going to probably take me out of the Hangout, or my own icon. That's not doing anything. Yeah, no, I don't know what's going on here, but I am sure it's definitely coming through as live here on YouTube. So it should be 1 second behind. Yeah, about 4 seconds, three seconds behind. So okay, well, listen, maybe I'll just leave it go then and just chat away. Interact with the chat. Any questions about anything that I can sort of give a go at trying to give you my perspective on things, and you let me know. Let me just say hello to people then. Flat accord music. I always say flat earth music. Flat accord music. How you doing? From the bottom up. How you doing, man? Ice swallow combuster. Okay. Ice swallow combuster. What's a combuster? How you doing? I hope you're busting all the cum that you need to. I guess I don't know. Benjamin Coe. How you doing? Elon Musk. Good to see you, man. My own finding, Elon Musk is played by Seth MacFarlane. So with facial prosthetics, which are very advanced, think about blow up balloons and that sort of thickness of rubber. Well, you can refine that again and again, and all these makeup artists applied maybe hours of work before any appearances by these characters. So yeah, when you peel off the mask, you get Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane himself is just another crafted character. But I'm happy enough in my own thinking that that's the case. And I wonder, do you know that? Why did you call yourself Elon Musk? I mean, characters like Elon Musk are certainly making it more obvious for us, aren't they? They're making it more obvious than ever that we're being lied to on a massive scale, and nothing can be trusted. It's just been made blatantly obvious. The difficulty here is, or not the difficulty, the problem I see here is us thinking ourselves smart, right? Because we work the shit out, but all the people we speak to in real life have no clue about it. No, we're not smart. They're just a little bit slower on the pickup. We're not smart at all because we were always meant to find these errors and anomalies. We were sort of led along the path. So let's boost ourselves up to a position that's illusional. Let's get real here. We were said and led at every step of the way, and we've all done it. We talked about others who are not quite at the same level of thinking as we are. We describe them as sheeple, people who believe the official stories, or who just take for granted that they're true without further questioning. Well, I call them the white sheeple, right? But we can't forget that pens were also crafted and created for the black sheeple, which is us, right? And we were steered and said and led at every hand's turn. But beyond a certain point, then you can sort of wake up enough and say, I'm not having this anymore, and start doing your own thinking, your own piecing together, which I think fundamentally this is what it's all about anyway. So Elon Musk, I think he's playing that role, and Seth MacFarlane is a perfect actor. I can't share a screen, but it's another thing I could go into again, just for your own satisfaction. Type into YouTube a young Seth MacFarlane and a young Elon Musk. Do your own comparisons, and then find the best high quality definition image of the two you can and compare them. And what you're looking for when you're doing facial comparisons like that is sort of a natural look. We have a natural sort of flow to us, the blood in every pore, and it gives us a color, especially the ears. I'm a bit warm now, so my ears are a bit red. So you can tell artificial spots. You can tell the artificiality from the natural by this deadened color. Right, so they can never disguise it properly, but that's what you're sort of looking for. You're also a good tool for you is to turn the image upside down, because when we're accustomed to looking at faces or images, except for right way up, everything is correct, top-down order, and our mind fills in a lot of the blanks. So we don't pay too much attention to areas that we know are going to be there anyway. But when you turn the image upside down, suddenly your brain is gets tumbled, and things that don't look quite right, upright, but you sort of gloss over, suddenly stick out when you invert the image and you're examining it with new eyes. And when you do that, well, all these artificial spots jump out at you, and satisfy yourself if you're interested to follow that line of inquiry. I'm happy enough that Seth MacFarlane is Elon Musk. Like, I'm very happy that Barack Obama and Will Smith are one and the same. Again, it comes back to the other question, well, who is Will Smith? These are just different characters presented to us at a very early age. Remember the Fresh Prince? Who didn't love the Fresh Prince? Do you know that Will Smith in all his roles always played the part of the good guy? Yeah, that tells you something. It's always psychological, you see, because deeper down, we know the truth, right? But we must be coerced and persuaded and diverted away from it. And this is where, when we look at Will Smith, subconsciously we're thinking, what a great guy. Like, even no deception could be involved there. But once again, we were always meant to work this out. that's just a little spiel based on calling out, not calling out, just saying hello to Elon Musk. Okay, let me just continue to say hello. Flat Earth Network, how you doing? Chilster Lux, any need for any wrenches? I don't know. I don't think you can give out probably wrenches here. Oh, maybe you can, yeah. But yeah, the slate is sort of wiped clean, and yeah, to be honest with you, with wrenches, I never used them myself, and I always had the hope of never having to use them. But I think the number of trolls and just blatant shills are definitely decreasing. You know, and they certainly have no place here. They did spend a lot of time here, but yeah, I think everything is sort of running smoothly. And look, if there's anyone inside a nine, you just fucking ignore them. I would say for the most part, you should be able to see through these characters now. You know, especially the returning ballers who defend the same position that they enter the arena defending, which is an untenable position. So you can engage with them all you like, or you can just you don't have to block them. You just ignore them and leave them to someone else to deal with, because everyone's at a different sort of stage. But outside of that, as long as there isn't any blatant obnoxiousness, well, I think we can all learn to be equals. And yeah, we judge everything as sort of a helpful stepping stone, or a helpful sort of encounter along the path towards greater realization. These characters will never change their tune, and so be it. Needs must. Like, you know, millions of people are waking up earthwide to flat Earth, or at least considering it. So when they come to places that are well entrenched, then very solid arguments can be given for a flat and stationary Earth. You know, but as I keep saying, we're always meant to move beyond and formulate the greater picture here. I've often talked about flat Earth. What do you mean when you say you're a flat earther? When you use the term Earth, what do you mean in a heliocentric Big Bang universe? We knew well what the Earth was. We saw it, right? It was the ball itself, the core, right? We couldn't see the core, obviously, but the ball itself, the atmosphere around it, and then against the backdrop of everything else spatial. Whereas when we come to flat Earth, no, I reject all that. I'm a flat earther. So what do you mean by Earth? Well, the Earth, the ground beneath me is flat, has no curvature detected, and it's not moving. So is that all it is then? Is that your picture? So paint me a picture of that in the greater setting. See, we don't have it, do we? As I said, it's very easy to not revert back. There's a comfort in being told the truth, or the so-called truth. You know, the whole picture is presented to us. The scary part is us having to fill in our own picture. So yeah, when we have to be very careful of words, and especially now more so than ever. But yeah, when we talk about Earth, what do we mean? For me, when I talk about Earth, I'm talking about the ground beneath and all its confines. And in that sense, we can think of Earth as being flat. We can think of Earth as being convex. We can think of Earth as being concave, and we can think of Earth as being globular, spherical. In all senses, we can. You know, it just depends on what you mean by Earth. Earth and its confines. What do I mean by that? Well, what's below? What's below? For me, below is Aristarchus intact. Above, it's been decapitated. So we have a collapsed bubble, with the north inner center separated from the outer barrier. The outer barrier, which we're under, begins low in the north, rises high at the equator, and lowest again at the southern peripheral. So we have like a spider form, the inner body in the north center, and then the external toroid donut sort of shape to it. But yeah, not very in its distance. We're told that the Kármán line is a separation line between Earth and space. Met someone the other day and talking about flat Earth, and he was going, "Yeah, I've heard it all, man, but it's surely a metaphor, isn't it? With the ball, Earth being reality, so it's used as a sort of teaching, or a sort of an exercise in thinking outside the box. It's a metaphor for something else." I said, "No, man, you got it exactly wrong. Flat Earth is the reality, and the ball Earth is the metaphor. So everything we're given, the law of reversal applies, so we can reverse everything and see where that takes us, and that takes us closer to the truth." But yeah, when we do think along those lines, we can understand, we can separate the real from the unreal. And well, isn't or is real, right? Isn't or is real. Um, yeah. Most importantly, though, we can piece together our own picture of our reality, and fundamentally, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. We've been given many clues along the way. One of the massive clues was the giant no trees on flat Earth, right? What's all that about? Mad stuff. When you take it further, yeah, again, well, it's taking me all the way to Aristarchus. Aristarchus being the only tree with all its different tributaries or branches, it's like Aristarchus being the central tree of life, decapitated. And yeah, so many different pieces then can start to bring themselves together in your reckoning, not mine. Not mine. I'm just some geezer on here talking about my thoughts, not very coherently at times, rambling a lot. But look, I'm not out to sort of impress or sell anything. For me, this has all been an outlet where you can talk sort of openly and freely, and I guess develop in terms of my own thought process as well by that release of speaking my mind in open passion. Um, so okay, yeah, it's mad. Yeah, so yeah, raging now about that. I'll have to look into it a bit more. How to just connect directly to who I was comfortable in the old ways, but connecting directly to Hangouts as well, where I can share stuff. But that's fine as well. Actually, I'm not going to stay on overly. I might come on relatively soon again, and see how that goes. Um, no, we don't know. Okay, well, Kev, we don't know anything about anybody. I certainly don't know anything about anybody. But look, I was even out tonight. Very interesting conversation. Not very interesting for me. I mean, generally, you're just repeating the same stuff and getting people to question whether they know the truth or not in relation to the spinning ball Earth. So it's just a sort of repetition of things. But I try to just be natural and normal as well. We have all the arguments. If any flat earther can't defeat any baller, any inquisitive, genuine questioner in quick time, if you've been in this arena long enough, well, then you haven't been paying attention. There's so many different things we can throw at people. But I find it does, unless someone is interested, and I've certainly met a few people who've continued to ask questions, and I've been capable of answering most of them, or at least giving a sufficient answer to get them to think or rethink, possibly regarding what they held to be true. But yeah, everyone is at their own sort of stage. That's the way I look at it. And as I said, I met a guy there last Wednesday or last Saturday, and he was talking about stuff, man. That I couldn't believe it. His name was even Nolik. What was his name? I can't think of his name in Irish. First name was Nolik O'Muraka or something, but it translated as Christ's Mary. Or Mary's Christ, or Christ Mary. Nolig is Christmas in Irish, or Noel, the material, right? But yeah, the stuff he was coming out with, talking about the different vibrational frequencies associated with the different chakras, the different colors associated with things. Amazing, and how it sort of coincided with my thinking, but having come a completely different path. So I think we're all on our own path, and I've often said this as well. Fucking for the average person, right, to come to flat Earth realization, take you a weekend, just a weekend of serious consideration. That's it. After that, then there's no distinction between any of us. That's what I keep saying. If you're flat Earth and you're still stuck at the basics all this time, well, you're selling yourself short, I think, because there is a greater puzzle laid out for us. And, if anything is worthwhile, I guess maybe that search is worthwhile. but I don't know what's worthwhile anymore. I started to write a poem about eternity the other night, so maybe I'll finish it and read it next time. But what is worthwhile? I mean, it's all about how we view things, isn't it? What's our perspective on the here and now in relation to everything before and everything after, eternity or nothingness. I mean, yeah, these are the simpler. I mean, the things that deep inside us all, and you can't sort of express your thoughts in it, but you know exactly what you mean when you consider it inside. But to use words and terms, how can you, first of all, verbalize it for yourself? But then, how can you communicate that greater idea or thought process to somebody else using, you know, words that, well, we haven't a fucking clue what they are, what they mean. But we can actually learn it. Look, yeah, it's an individual's game. So ultimately, there is no sort of hierarchy. When we're talking about the black sheep and the white sheep, well, we're all in the same boat, and it wouldn't take anything much for each and every one of us to catch up with each and every other investigator. It's all about the mental blocks that we set up for ourselves. And well, I see a day when it's just going to be made so clear and so obvious. All of these different truths that we've been finding out, so clear and so obvious that even the most ardent on the fencer will have to take a side, because it's just made so plain and simple, the truth. So, yeah, we're just a little bit of ahead of the step, I suppose. Is that Gem Panda 24th? 20? Oh, I like it. 24th Gem Panda. You know the story. Let me just, because you mentioned 24th, Mark K. Sargent. So I gave out the code dodo earlier on, or I started to, didn't I? So I stopped at L. So anyway, L was 7, M was 6, N is 5. So now I see. Now I'm going to go back. So we're all born in sin, right? Sin is INS. So N is 5, right? Which is 1/2 of 10, which is IO, which is the theta, which is the material and the immaterial, the circle and the diameter relation, which is 3.14 to 1. 3.14 is 42, which is 24 backwards, which is 888. Pi is the relation between the diameter and the circumference, which is the 2 pi r, right? And that relation is 3.14 to 1. The 1, as I said, is the countable, everything that can be countable, everything that can be quantified. That's the material. And then the 0 is the uncountable. As I said, the 0 is the term, and the infinity is the term in mass that go undefined. So it's uncountable or the immaterial. So that's the TH. The 24th as well is included there, Gem Panda. So of course lots that you don't let on. But Mark K. Sargent. So yeah, the code dodo. Let me just go through that again. Code dodo. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, E is 5, F is 6, G is 7, H is 8, I is 9, J is 9, K is 8, L is 7, M is 6, N is 5, O is 4, P is 3, Q is 2, R is 1, right? S is 2, T is 3, U is 4, V is 5. W is 6, so we notice that W and M are inverses of one another, both with the value of 6. W is 6, X is 7, right? XL, for instance, or XXX signifying 21, blackjack. X is 7, Y is 8, right? And we can understand why that goes with the H and the K. And Z is 9. 999 is the highest aspiration. It applies to the head. The 666 applies to the groin, right? So if we think about a 6, it's biased towards the bottom. That's what I'm talking about. Like children must become, like the V is pointing us downwards. So when we understand we have these divisions, the immaterial, the hard bridge between the immaterial and the material, and then the material center just below within. Then we can understand better these relations. So 24, yeah. So Mark K. Sargent, right? So K is a value of 8, and so Mark K, M-A-R, M is 6, A is 1, R is 1, so that's 8. K is 8, that's 8, 8, and then K, so Mark K, so that K is 8. That's 888, which is 24. And then Mark Sargent, Sargent, when you add up all the different values, we get 24 as well, which is 888 as well. These things are not coincidence. I've often said that Mark Sargent, most of us have missed his real clues. You know, he gave us these clues, like September clues gave us their clues, right, which solved 9/11, and so many other media fake hoaxes as well. Yeah, they're all clues for us. Like Sherlock Holmes, we can think of ourselves as, you know, we're following the breadcrumbs left for us. We always have to add our own inimitable experience and mind to these matters, to figure it out, to make sense of it. So, yeah, Mark K. Sargent, brilliant. Mark K. Sargent, he tells us, that's where I started off. We want to get around and back. He tells us he was into conspiracies, but he had no internet presence for from the time he had an internet presence just on one occasion where he printed a prepper's guide. Least likely prepper you've ever seen, Mark Sargent, right? But anyway, prepper's guide, and it turns out to be 8 years, if I'm not mistaken, prior to when his clues were released in 2007. So Mark Sargent Prepper, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. When we look into Sergeant Pepper's, the most famous album in existence, right, by the most famous band, the Beatles, we find that it's a walkthrough to Alice in Wonderland. So Alice in Wonderland comes into a new significance that's associated with Aleister Crowley as well. All of the devotees, if you will, to Crowley were made to know and understand, I guess, Alice in Wonderland inside out. That was a prerequisite. Just type it into your Google search. Again, another clue for us, right? So we're pointed towards Alice in Wonderland and that greater significance. And Alice is all of us. We are all of us in Wonderland. And that's what I was saying. One of those 100 shows, or at least definitely a few of them, would be rereading Alice in Wonderland and applying what I have come to think now to how I thought about it maybe 2 years ago when I read it first of all. So the Wasp and the Wig, man, I didn't even want to talk about these sort of stuff because it's amazing finds. The Wasp and the Wig was declared as the discarded chapter for stupid reasons. Like, so for me, it was the sort of discarded stone that was the foundation. So when we get to the Wasp and the Wig, we've decoded that, and that brings me back to behemoth as well, and what the true significance of behemoth is. And you are the behemoth. You are the behemoth in the book of Job, where behemoth is God's first and primary creation. That's you, right? That's you. And this is the true power. Kevin talked about that himself in the chat here, Kevin Luby. And I think he agrees with me that this is that true purity and power within, and the first and most loved creation, as we are behemoth. And I've often said as well, the answers are always before us, you know, right in plain sight, and not so much even hidden. When we look at the keyboard in front of us, we see H right in the very center, right? Human, H-human. But on the diagonal, on the X, which is the IO, we have T-H-U-M-E, which is thumb. So give us your thumbs up, thumbs down. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Arthur Dent got places by his electronic thumb. Right? So when we look at the word thumb and we invert it, or we reverse it, we have B-M-U-H-T. If you phonic it out, if you sound it out, it's all about the sound. Light is sound, by the way. It's all sound frequencies. It's all frequencies and interactions that give us light, as opposed to something being within the sources themselves. But when we sound it out, we have behemoth. So behemoth. So behemoth. TH is the S tone. So we take the sword from the stone, or the S word from the S tone. S word is from the S tone, which is right. So we have to understand the distinction. And the best way of trying to get you to understand the power of is we are creators or imagine we are creators in our own right. We gave birth, or we gave life. We didn't give birth to it. We gave life. We sustained the life of an absolute fantasy and illusion when we said that the heliocentric model is true, is a reality. It's all in our minds. right? We're after bringing something that is unreal into a reality, but it has no legs, it has no foundation. It's all fantastical. But to us, when we held it dear, held it true, it was as real can be. No one could sway us from the truth and the reality of, for instance, the heliocentric model and many other things as well. So that's what it means fundamentally to be careful what you say is, right? You can manifest, I guess, in one sense, the reality. And so, yeah, when we take the sword from the S tone, yeah, we take also that vibration, that harshness, and we substitute it for the softness. But you can see the S sound, the S word, S tone, right? So, but yeah, further to that is, yeah, it's all physiological processes. We can transcend, right? Transcend at one end to the other. Remember, the material and the immaterial bridge is the heart. So we want to create the circle again. Everything has been divided and twisted. So the left brain connects to the heart, to the right side, and vice versa, right around. So we want to untwist the 8 to get back to our essential form. Are you willing to leave everything behind? I think that's the ultimate question, then, isn't it? I mean, life has become ridiculous for me anyway, and what to do. How do you talk about any of this sort of stuff to anybody? But maybe that's just the way it has to be, needs must. But yeah, sorry about that. See the way I just I can so easily get diverted. I'm gonna go for a cigarette now, and I can't even put on any music, can I? I'm gonna put on some music. Fuck it. If the hanger gets taken down, I can put it on, and yeah, that's mad, isn't it? I mean, that you can't even share a screen. You'd imagine that since they overtook the Google Hangouts option, that they would at least give you some fucking options. So maybe I'll just put on some music in the background. This is for a non-profit anyway, and actually, you know, there's some great songs, especially Radiohead. Radiohead are the chief clue givers. Some great Radiohead songs that, for completely educational purposes, should be played without any sort of copyright thread over your head, you know, or any sort of thread. Let me think what I put on. Yeah, fuck it, I will. I shouldn't say fuck it. I don't mean that in any bad way. Okay, I'm going to do that. This is what I said, right? So you should be able to hear it, hopefully. Let me just line it up. This is what I said, right? So what about this? Now, this wasn't my find, but I sort of expanded upon it. I found out that Tom York, Radiohead lead singer, was nicknamed Dodo when he was a youngster. But this is someone else's find. When you play Kid A, which was released in 2000 by Radiohead, side by side with the 102-minute movie we saw on 9/11 presented as live, you have a sort of a synchronous, almost perfect matchup between the album itself and the visuals. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say the 102-minute movie we saw on 9/11 presented as live, well, it was pre-recorded. So from the moment that the first collision was reported, right, when it came up on all the screens, from that moment until after just the second building fell, 102-minute span. So when you start Kid A at that point and play it out, you get a perfect synchronization. Now the strange thing about that is we often hear about Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, and Wizard of Oz, you know, and I haven't listened to it myself, but I absolutely would find it very easy to understand synchronization there, because after all, the movie came out in the 50s, and Pink Floyd's album is what, 70s sometime, so no problem there. But when it comes to 9/11 movie, 9/11, of course, was broadcast to us as live, or live, right, on 9/11, and Radiohead's album came out, Kid A, in 2000, right, so a year beforehand. But yeah, that's purposefully done. But isn't it funny that song number 10, I.O. again, the Theta, song number 10 is called Motion Picture Soundtrack, and that's amazing. I'm going to play this and just sit back, and I can't even share a screen, so you're just going to have to look. As if funny, look at this, unbelievable, unbelievable. If you can see the picture up on the wall there when 9/11 happened, all of the different photos like that or pictures and all that, out of respect for the victims, were sold off at a fraction of the cost. So that was quite expensive in the background, because you plug it in and it lights up and all that. So there's this backdrop of the New York skyline. But a few days after 9/11 or whenever, it was going cheap, and my brother got a gift from my mother here, and that's where it is. But this song, again, is song number 10, Motion Picture Soundtrack. This is the soundtrack to the movie that was presented to us as live. No one died in 9/11. There was no plane crashes. It was a media and a victim hoax extravaganza, but it wasn't that. That's the literal. Forget about the literal. Greater symbolism involved here. So when we look at 9/11, we see two twin pillars, right? In the material heart of the world, the Big Apple were unbirthed, and in their place we have a unified whole, rebirthed, like a phoenix from the ashes, right? So anyway, this is most appropriate then. If my screen stays on, you're going to be looking at those images in the background. There's no subliminals here. I promise you. I have no intention or malintention towards anyone, or no snide or sly intention to influence anyone. You take what you want from me speaking, and leave whatever you want. But I'm going to play this image, and then once again, just for in case anybody anyone who would even dream of a potential copyright infringement claim, well, first of all, Tom York is the dodo, and je suis dodo now, right? But this is just purely for educational entertainment purposes. There's no profit to be made out of this. So let me just play this, and hopefully it comes through. And yeah, I'm going to play it to the end, because hang on. There's a full version, so I could actually, let me, okay, let me just type in full version, because, and it's amazing. I found this out. I definitely found this out myself. The full version. Let me see now. Okay, well, if it doesn't give the last verse here, I give it, and it doesn't give the game away, but it certainly says in no uncertain terms. Okay, let me just make sure it's coming through. You hear that? I don't think you can hear that. I don't think you can hear that, can you? No, I don't think that's playing. Okay. No, I can't do it. It's not coming through. No, this is shit, isn't it? This YouTube. It's not. Yeah, not coming through. Oh well. No, you can't hear that. Okay, I guess I'll play it for you in a second then. Okay. That's the last time I'm picking this YouTube anyway. YouTube option, I'll go back to Google Hangouts. Okay, well, well, you're gonna have to bear with me then. Entertain yourself for a few minutes. All right. All right. If you're gonna do it right. I better do it myself. So. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to do it myself. So, song number 10, to the soundtrack of the 9/11 movie that we all took as real, which wasn't. It was pre-prepared, and it's pre-prepared before the release of the Radiohead album. And I have sort of corroborating evidence that I've gathered along the way. This is the case as well. But again, just pay attention to the name of the song, also the title of the album, Kid A. There we have the A again. Kid is a goat. Go A-T. Go A-T. What does A-T mean? T is the top, the opposite of L. The Lord, bow well, right? The W points downward. So again, we have the material, groin center, immaterial, and then the heart center. So this song, beautiful song, and amazing story attached to it. It's my favorite Radiohead song for years. And when I came to find this out, just the significance, again in my own terms, right? I'm going, fucking hell, what's going on here? But I'll do my best at it anyway. And pay attention to the third verse, because in the official release on the album, this verse is nowhere to be found. So I think, again, all clues for us. And when we continue to burrow, we continue to dig, then sorry about the guitar, and I'll do my best. So remember, we're in the divided state. You can see it above me, divided state. That has 2 has come down and become 1. 2 is 11, right? So when you bring the 2 together, you get 1. 11, 9, 11. So we have 1. There we have a 1 and 9. So we think about 2019 being the year that was always it was always penciled in for 19. Also turns out to be the 8th prime number. So there we have the 8 again. You find 8s are everywhere, and pay attention. Yeah. So let me try this. Why sleep help me get back to your arms. Cheap sex and sad films help me get where I belong. I think you're crazy, baby. I think you're crazy, maybe. Stop sending letters when letters always get burned. It's not like the movies that fed us on little white lines. I think you're crazy, baby. I think you're crazy, baby. Beautiful angels torn apart at birth, limbless and lifeless. I hardly recognize you. I think you're crazy, baby. I think beautiful song. So we missed the last verse, left out, omitted. Beautiful angels torn apart at birth, right? Twin Towers. Limbless and lifeless, I hardly recognize you. I think you're crazy, maybe. I think you're crazy, maybe. I will see you in the next life. Says a lot. So if we think about that and just take what I'm saying for granted and as being true, right? And there's absolutely major significance to that. 9/11 was a defining moment in history, right? Especially our history, anyway, what we can attest to. So if it is all structured this way, and if this greater story has been told, well, then that song can take on new significance. And the fact that it was left out of the main version, especially that last verse there, yeah, beautiful angels torn apart at birth, limbless and lifeless. I hardly recognize you. I think you're crazy, maybe. How many times that's been said to you? I think you're crazy, maybe. I will see you in the next life. So, what does that tell you? What does that say to you? Rachel, I couldn't play it. Let me put a link in the chat here to anyone who wants to listen to the original. If you haven't heard it before, yeah, do yourself a favor, get into a dark room, and you know, stop thinking. Yeah. Radiohead are chief clue givers, as I pointed out. It's not me saying this. This was just facts, listed facts regarding Thom Yorke. Thom Yorke, first of all, Thomas is the name for the sun. York, we have New York, the Big Apple. And I was talking earlier on about the intact Earth. So we have the tree below, Aristarchus below, Aristarchus above. Aristarchus above has been decapitated, so we have a collapsed top, that bite taken out of the apple. So the Big Apple, Thom Yorke, the York Rite, Masonic lodges, etc. We have the all-seeing eye. I've already decoded that. I mean, you can see that if you're paying attention. Kevin Luby, Kevin, can you see the all-seeing eye in the clouds, amongst many other things? And all these different patterns are there, aren't they, to be decoded? But you can see the all-seeing eye. If I could share my screen now, just bring a picture up on the moon and show you the eye, and there's no disputing that it's an eye. You can see it in cloud patterns. I've taken pictures of it. I see it most every day. I saw something different last weekend. I was telling Kevin about it. That it's more than just an eye. Anyway, it's a different story. But the point is, you can clarify all this stuff for yourself. Your first step would be recognizing the patterns, right? So when we look at the sky, what else have we to go on? We can judge by the distant stars. We can judge by the main bodies, which is the moon and the sun. But the most prominent feature in our sky are the cloud formations. So if you pay attention to those, you will see on a repeating basis, day in, day out, minute in, year out, same pattern. Why they look different is because when I was talking about perspective earlier on, if you're looking from a cloud here and I'm looking from a cloud 30 miles down up in an airplane or something, a little bit higher and you're going to see a different perspective. You might draw a different picture. There'll be some commonalities, but you go, hang on, that's not the same thing. Incidences here where they appear similar, but no, it's not the same thing. Well, you can prove that it is the same thing by 100 different people in a circle around this target object, and everyone drawing their own little piece of the picture, like the elephant, right? Like the elephant and the blind man trying to describe what they're dealing with, and each has a different portion to examine. With cooperation, we can come to the conclusion that yes, all of these men have seen different parts of the same thing. And we can put forward the picture of the elephant, and it'll be clear, it'll be indisputable, and it'll be true. So yeah, that's what we're looking at when we look at the clouds. But that's your first step. After that, for me, that was last year sometime. After that, we started thinking about what else is why are these patterns being projected, and or why are they in formation like this? And as I've often pointed out, these same patterns in my sky are going to be the same as the patterns in your sky, no matter where you are. Again, just a different perspective, slightly different conditions, but fundamentally the same pattern has been expressed. And well, that pattern source, the source of everything, is Aristarchus, as it emanates from the North Center, and that is Mount Meru. And me, as I go on, the more I see all clues lead to it. All roads lead to the same place. Can I prove it to anybody? Well, what does that matter? What does that matter? You prove it to yourself. The one thing I will say is that we are pointed towards it. We're told with the heliocentric model of truth that Aristarchus is the most mysterious crater. At least we're told in places anyway. It's the most mysterious crater on the most mysterious object in our system or in the universe, which is the moon. So when we come to a flat Earth sense and we can realize it's a game of clues, this will then have us focusing on Aristarchus and trying to put different pieces together in relation to that. Yeah, but beautiful song, motion picture soundtrack, perfect, isn't it? Come on, what's the chances? What's the chances of all this stuff? And as I said, Tom York, one of the facts associated with him, outside of the rest of the name choice, is a crafted character, but he was nicknamed, we're told, the Dodo, and I think more significantly, Salamander, when he was younger. You can just type into your YouTube or Google search 42 facts about Tom York, and pay attention to where the interview took place. He was actually interviewed in the Natural History Museum in Oxford, where one of the only skeletons of the dodo is to be found. Now we find out, as one of the factoids associated with Tom, we're told factoids, inverted commas, that Tom as a youngster was nicknamed Dodo and Dodo and Salamander. So dodo is significant enough, right? Because the dodo came into being. Remember, it represents the changing face of the earth post destruction inundation, but it also represents the divided state of us, right? So the dodo came into being after the destruction, the decapitation of Aristarchus, as did the sun, the moon, and the stars. Everything that we experience now came into being a very short time ago, and it was as a result of this decapitation. I've often talked about um, our Christmas, the ritual that we remember at Christmas. You know, we get a decapitated tree, we plant it on the X, and we artificially light it up with Polaris at the top. So if we imagine the natural state, right, all those energies, Aristarchus energies, are being transmitted throughout the intricate network of branches and etc. And these energies are what are being used in tandem with the branches of Aristarchus, if you will, or the I can't think of the proper word. Subsidiaries, of Aristarchus, which are around the equatorial areas, especially around not north and south of the equatorial areas, the desert areas. This is what desert areas were. These are where these peripheral branches of Aristarchus were also supporting the energy field, I guess, which was holding back the waters down. It sounds mad, doesn't it? It all sounds mad, but I mean, what the fuck? What are you going to do? No matter than a spinning ball. But yeah, that the Earth is a spinning ball in one sense, but just not the ground that we're on. So again, when we talked earlier on about defining Earth, what do you mean by Earth when you consider yourself a flat Earther? So yeah, the Earth is spinning because the sun, the moon, the stars are all part of the Earth. It's not just one section left alone. Everything is an intricate clockwork, an intricate connection between the component parts. So that's fundamentally what I mean by Earth. We have the plane in the center, we have the tree intact below, and all its subsidiaries holding back the waters beyond in a sort of apple-like form, right? And then above, it was the same thing. The tree was collapsed, and the bubble collapsed in itself. And you have the core center in the north, and then we have the donut shape barrier, which we're under. Again, it begins low at the north, highest at equatorial areas, which is, as we were talking about the Kármán line earlier on, 60 miles. 60, isn't that amazing to think? 60 miles high. I'm here in Ireland, so I'm north of the equator, which applies to the sky. It doesn't apply to the Earth. We have a grid-like coordinate system for the Earth, right? A planar surface. For a contoured surface, which is the sky, we have the spherical coordinate system. So yeah, the equator applies to the center of that donut, right? And the Kármán line distance is from ground to that highest point. Not quite a donut, by the way. It's oval shaped. It's rugby ball shaped, right? And yeah, we're told in the traditional model that everything revolves around the sun in an elliptical fashion. So we can reverse everything, and the Earth is flat. Everything revolves around the Earth in an elliptical fashion. So what the Oculus mosaic encodes as well. And well, that's certainly my picture where I'm at the minute. But yeah, more importantly, the perpendicular distance from the ground to the barrier, which is a watery. Kármán line is given a vague distance in and around 60 miles. I say give or take because it's a sort of a gradient. It's sort of a non-fixed distance. It's a solid distance, and that makes sense as well. When we're told in the Bible that the skies or the barrier is like molten glass. Well, perfect. What is glass? Glass is transparent, right? When you look out your window, you can see through it. So imagine that in the molten state. Well, yeah, it's waters beyond, being held back by an invisible energy force, Aristarchus energy force. As I said, when Earth was intact, that force was distributed evenly. We had this apple shape encompassing the whole of the Earth. And yeah, we had the decapitation and the collapse brought the sun and the moon and the stars into existence. I've often compared it to one of those fiber optic little trees, decorative trees. So you have all those little strands with different color ends, shine an energy source to the bottom, and you get the tree flaps out like this in all directions. A lovely little light effect, well, imagine getting your scissors out and holding the fiber optics together, cutting it off at the base, but letting the same power source express. In a dark room, what you're going to see something remarkably like the sun on your ceiling, is sort of a general circular pattern, but no distribution facility to it. You know, it's been cut off. So yeah, this is what we're seeing when we see Polaris. So Polaris is that. So there's the tree in the center has been cut off. Polaris is that primary reflection, right? And we are dealing with a contoured surface, and it's a whole of contoured mirrors. So the secondary reflection is the sun. So the sun is a direct reflection of Polaris, and the moon then is a direct reflection of the sun. That's why the sun and the moon are the same size. So that's the basics, and everything else then is a reflected artifact of the same thing, and everything revolves around the still and stationary center of the Earth once per day. The only variations, slight variations, got to do with the contour of the barrier. That's all it is, you know. But everything rolls around the sky in unison on a nightly basis. So that's the picture. And as I say, we're reminded of this all the time. You know, again, it's just a matter. And we're even like, you know, no, who would have thought about? How would you come up with no forest and flat Earth yourself? How would you done it? No way, you wouldn't have dreamt it in a million years. So there's some other hand at play, and that's why I keep saying it's a game of clues for us to piece together, and we're given many clues along the path. For me, I'm only just painting my picture, but I know that some things I'm saying are true. I know the repeating cloud patterns are true. I've seen them today. You can see them. You can see them, like, again, they're there all the time. So it's the same primary source, and it turns out that the source of those patterns for me is Aristarchus again. I can't show you a picture of Aristarchus here. What I can do is post you a link, and yeah, that's what I will do. Actually, I'll post that in chat. And this is amazing, absolutely amazing. I'll get you to, if you're inclined, take note of the title first of all. Aristarchus up close and personal, because remember I was saying there's no separating the external from the internal. So up close and personal, that's what that's a reference to. But pay attention to the date itself, when it was released, the 25th of December. This is when Christ was born. Christ or Jesus is the Son, right? And the Son is within. So there's no separating the internal from the external again. The Son is within. So the Son was born when Aristarchus was destroyed, right? But the Son was born to die and rise again. Yeah, this is the significance. So that image was, as I just posted in chat here, that image was released to us on the 25th of December. How funny is that, right? How funny is that? Again, a little clue for us. And when we have the context, when we have the order right, I guess all these things can make sense. I've said this. I'm either right about this, or else it's the biggest hoax I've certainly ever come across, because there's so many deliberate pointers towards the same thing that, you know, it's absolutely a mad red herring that spans, I'm going to say, centuries, or else, you know, there is much truth to it. But yeah, that's the base picture, and as I said, it's waters everywhere. What we have is a permeable barrier as well, and where I talk about the southern peripherals earlier on, this is where the boundary, right, this barrier meets the land, meets the waters beyond, and because it's permeable, you've got sort of a leakage, you know, drip, sort of seepage, if you will, and there we have the ice wall then forming. If you go, you can only go so far south before you hit the barrier. It's the same north. You have to drop your altitude as you're flying north, and yeah, this is because the further you go, the closer you get to ground zero, to the 0 point. I'm here in Ireland, so I reckon because the Kármán line is 60 miles at the equator, it's probably about, well, I think you can work it out as well. So we got to reverse everything in terms of what this the heliocentric, or not geocentric, heliocentric Earth, yeah, spherical mathematics. We can reverse everything and have those applied to the sky. So I have a good idea how to work that out as well. But the important point is to realize that, yeah, the barrier above is fucking so close. I mean, when they talk about 3,000 miles to the sun, that makes sense in terms of, let's say I'm here in Ireland, and from here to the equator, right, might be 3,000 miles along the ground. So if we do the trigonometry, you could work out the hypotenuse as being roughly about 3,500 miles or something like that. But yeah, that's, we have to look at it in a different sense as well. But a question often asked on Nathan Oakley's is, what's any distance to the sun? And the answer is given, there's no distance to the sun. Well, there is a distance to the sun. There's a distance to the point of reflection. When I look at the sun and you look at the sun in America, and we're looking at the same sun, and it's higher in your sky and it's lower in my western sky, we're still looking at the same point of reflection ultimately. Even though we're obviously clearly looking at completely different angles and completely different perspectives, but we are looking at the point of reflection. So we could both point to the same spot, the same center of the sun, and should we have the ability to follow our finger all the way, we would both eventually reach the same point of reflection off the mirror, if you will. So there is a distance to the sun in that sense. It's the distance from you, the observer, to the point of reflection. But as there is no obstruction above, it does appear that the sun and all of the luminaries are in our vicinity, and we get to see them. You know, you might often have wondered why the stars disappear, or why there's such sort of vague and contradictory stories regarding astronaut testimonies regarding stars, or being able to see stars or not. Again, these are all clues for us, and I have amazing clues. I won't probably talk about tonight because I'm not going to stay on for too much longer, but I have amazing clues that lead us again to Aristarchus. Neil Armstrong, for instance, and Buzz Aldrin on their mission around the moon had a very interesting conversation, which is recorded. The transcript is there when they approached this anomalous crater Aristarchus. Now, it turns out that Neil Armstrong might very well have been played by this character called John Lear. John Lear, if anyone knows anything about conspiracy chat, has been a major influence in lots of sort of insider exposures, you know, and very influential man. He's supposed to be the son of Learjet, creator or inventor, and etc. It's just another story attached to him, but pretty sure he and Neil Armstrong are one and the same. So it's the same actor that is playing both roles, but he himself had something very interesting to say about Aristarchus as well, and he compared it to a nuclear reactor, right? And we know what to say about the sun, right? It's just a massive nuclear reactor. So when we can put the pieces together, we understand, of course, that the Apollo missions were absolutely fake, and when we're of that mind, then we can examine everything regarding the narrative that's fed as being concocted for certain reasons. So if there are greater reasons, and if a greater story has been told, then it's up to us to put these clues together. John Lear was the guy who was heavily involved in 9/11, talking about no planes, and no better man as well. Very qualified man to come along and give his affidavit that planes could not function at that level, so close to ground, and at that particular speed they would break apart, and it certainly couldn't have been control couldn't have been maintained by an amateur pilot who barely got a Cessna license. So yeah, more clues for us, and we're then supposed to pick up on the baton. But yeah, the two of them, some very interesting things to say about Aristarchus, John Lear, and Neil Armstrong. Now, when we look at the name Neil Armstrong backwards, it's go north's, Mr. Alien. Isn't that interesting? John Lear was always talking about aliens as well, and alien bases on the moon. So yeah, you can't land on the moon. The moon is a reflection of the sun. This is why the two of them are the same size. But why they don't look the same is because light is not what we think it is, right? And this ties me back into why we can't see the stars beyond a certain distance up, is because what we view, our visuals, are based on the interaction between the energies, these reflected energies of the light, or not lights in the sky, what are you going to call them? The energies in the sky, and the water particulation everywhere. So it's particularly through the atmosphere that we get to experience these lights. So it's the interaction between these energies and yeah, this water articulation. And indeed, I think it was another clue for us recently when NASA talked about the moon being in our atmosphere. I can understand what that means in light of what I'm thinking, right? So once we get to a certain height, the moon starts to diminish, and if it kept going, I think, ultimately, because of the vacation of water particulation anyway, and because of your particular angle changing to your viewing, it would tend to disappear. So we're looking, it's like a laser, right? So it's like a laser. If there's no dust particulation and there was no obstructions in any way, you would not see the laser, right? It's only when laser beam, it's only when it has something to interact with that we experience it as the visuals, right? We can see it. We literally gather the disturbance. So yeah, it's the same thing with stars, and it's the same thing ultimately with all of the luminaries. The sun, I think, ultimately as well, the sun and the moon. But the sun is strong because it is just the primary sort of reflection of, as I said, Polaris. And what's in the name? Polaris, ARISTARCHUS. That's my view of it, and yeah, I don't think I'll be changing that anytime soon anyway, because I'm not expressing it. I'm just probably I'm sounding a bit glib about what I'm saying, taking it for granted. But no, that's the picture that I've formulated, and there's backing evidence. There's plenty of backing evidence as well. I don't want to be tricking myself. I want to find out the nature of this, and the more I go on, the more I'm sort of realizing that we were always meant to figure this out. The shit is easy for all of us, and yeah, once we move beyond the external, then we bring everything back to ourselves, the experiencer here, and we realize that Aristarchus is within us as well as without. So it's an intrinsic part to us. The tree of life is expressed through us, and as I say, we are the greater forces here. So I tend to view all of this as a sort of a construct, as I said, the game of life. So yeah, getting back to light. So that's what light is. Light. So when I say when we come back to a flat Earth sense, and we don't need to think about cosmic coincidences anymore regarding the sun and the moon signs. If we understand there's a reflective barrier above, an invisible reflector, like molten glass, right? Isn't it like molten glass, like an energy field against water at the surface of a bubble, right? So yeah, when we understand that water is reflective, like we do as children, and we're looking at reflections, now we can see why the sun and the moon are the same size. And for me anyway, there's a bit more going on as well, which we can garner when we look at Aristarchus on the moon and its neighboring crater, which I think is the black sun, Herodotus. Very interesting. Herodotus, of course, we associate with the Christ story, right? And there's Aristarchus, its neighboring crater. Herodotus can be looked upon as the black sun, as I said, and it is a sort of a shadow of the main crater. And every crater as I said before, on the moon is just a reflection of the same one and only crater. And I mean, I don't want to go into this as well, but if you want to Google image crater Clavius, right? This is the crater that Stanley Kubrick in 2001 Space Odyssey had the moon base located on, crater Clavius. And I think he did that because when you look at crater Clavius, it's more than it's so easy. It's the easiest sort of and most apparent example of a reflected artifacts that you can see. So I would encourage everyone to just type in crater Clavius, get a high definition image, and just examine it for a few seconds. You'll be able to see the spiraling pattern, and you'll be able to see this repeating pattern as well, and you'll know that hang on, this is not a natural representation here. We're looking at reflected artifacts. So I think, like, again, another clue giver, Stanley Kubrick, but yeah, that he had the moon base located on Clavius is significant. So yeah, when we look at the moon and we look at the sun, as being the same size, we can make that direct correlation. One is a reflection of the other. But yeah, getting back to Herodotus, the black sun, these are neighbor crater to Aristarchus. The other neighboring crater to form the trio is crater Prince. So we have Prince, we have the father, Aristarchus, we have the son, crater Prince, and we have the Holy Ghost, which is, as I said, Herodotus is sort of the shadow. It's a black sun. For all the world, it's just a black mystery, another mystery on the moon. So that's the Holy Ghost, and the Holy Ghost actually represents the heart as well. The Father is the immaterial, the head center. The Son is the material center, right? Son is born of the woman, right? Born of the Virgin. This is the material. Eve represents the material heart to us, right? And then the Holy Ghost is in the heart center, the bridge between the two. You can offend the Father, you can offend the Son, but don't offend the Holy Ghost, because this is the core of our being here within this experience, anyway. But yeah, it's interesting. Herod was charged, or he put out an order to kill all children because he wanted to kill Christ, right? Wasn't it? He wanted to end the life of the young Christ out of whatever motivations, like. But we understand that these are not literal stories. We can look at them as allegorical, representative. But yeah, Herod, so Herodotus, and we have that association of Christ. Aristarchus is an anagram of Christ's aura. So Jesus is the Son, is within. Aristarchus is the Son, is also within, right? Christ's aura, AU, is gold. Ra is the sun, so Christ's gold sun. Soul, each of us were imbued with a soul, right? Or given a soul, or possess a soul. Soul is you, Sol. So you are the Son, Jesus is within, right? So same story being told. Again, it turns out that before Aristarchus, the creator, was named Aristarchus, it was named Balthasaria, right? Balthasaria. So Balthazar, another connection to the biblical nativity story. And Balthazar was one of the three wise men that brought the gift of myrrh on the wall. And Aristarchus expresses via this mirror-like reflective barrier in the form that I already explained, like a rugby ball oval or eye shape. That's what it is. That's what it is. And yeah, so all clues, you can write it off as coincidence. I might be making such a coherent job at summating it all up, but you know, I could go into much further detail on my thoughts on all of this. But you can see that, you know, that these things, you can write them off as connections with no other real significance, but you know, that's down to you. I certainly don't. I certainly don't. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm on 2.5 hours and I haven't said anything. I haven't even gone into chat too much. Yeah. I think these days that I'm trying to get away from the computer as well. I'm weary of it all, but I think some of the most interesting encounters or interactions are within the chat, not within anything that's been said in general in the Hangouts. I don't want to get into the state of flat Earth at the minute too much. I wanted to say that, well, the whole arena is controlled, and you will be challenged till the very end. So be careful where you place any strong or fixed allegiance to. You're constantly being sort of I'm going to say targeted in a sense, and well, you must resist, and you know it's by resisting then that you'll build up your own strengths and your own trusts within your own true abilities. And yeah, there are many different forces in play, and yeah, follow no one. It's your game at the end of the day, and well, no one can lead you, no one can walk you by the hand. So Kevin chat here has gone further than most. I mean, some of the things that you say, Kevin, are fantastical to me, but I mean that just from the hearing of it, and it just as it strikes me as going, man, I never would have thought, or I wouldn't have thought something like that is possible. But I do realize that everything is possible now. There is no normal, there is no natural. You know, we haven't a fucking clue what's going on. So every thought, if it strikes you as interesting, you should investigate it further. I mean, for instance, when I say Barack Obama, Will Smith has always played the role of Barack Obama. I've already went about an hour into giving all my reasons for that and doing the comparisons. And as time has gone on, I'm just more fixed on that. That I'm going to say the truth. It can't, for me, it can't be anything else but the truth. But as I said, now we have to say who Will Smith is. That's a different kettle of fish. Um, but yeah, like with any idea, if you're interested in it, do your own comparisons. Do your own. It doesn't take long, right? Do a serious comparison between Barack Obama and Will Smith, for instance. Use a few tools, turn the picture upside down, get the clearest images you can. Do a matchup on multiple different points, multiple different occasions. Yeah, you'll find the same. I'm sure you will, but I mean, you'll find what you'll find. But at least you'll have taken that first step. You want to find out if these things are so. I mean, um, I mentioned Seth MacFarlane, but I mean, Kevin talks about Prince, Michael Jackson, and Will Smith being the same character. That to me is difficult because Prince was a small, wafy little fella, and Michael Jackson the same. But then again, there's been many different characters playing these different roles. I mean, there's about 7 Hitlers, for instance. There's a few Elvises. Bob Dylan has been replaced a few times. So, I mean, who knows what's going on? But again, my point is that no matter how strange a thought hits you, yeah, that's down to yourself whether you want to take it further or not. I think ultimately, don't force anything. Everything will come your way when it needs to. Simplify everything. That's what I'd say. And anything you're not getting, just let go. Let go. You'll come around again. Um, yeah, you'll come around in some form or fashion. It has to. It has to because it encompasses everything. It's the same story that's been told us all. That's the way I see it. That's the way I see it. And I would just say about bringing things into. We've let go such a whopper like the globe Earth lie, but we seem to be attached to other truths that we can take with us from our prior state of mind. And not that you have to throw out everything, but you certainly have to be willing to throw out everything. And so I talk about the Bible literalists. No, they came in knowing the answer. They changed some, no, not changed one iota. They came in knowing it. They knew it all their lives because the book told them all their lives. We just didn't listen. No, there's a problem there. We can't relate to that. Can't relate to that. The Bible is true, right? But not in that literal sense. Not in that you're forced to externalize. Remember I said about the church earlier on? CHURCH, church. CHURCH. Every time you walk into a church, now start thinking about your body. Have you ever see that movie? Not movie, brilliant. iPad Go 2, another 9/11 connection. iPad 2 Go 2. I'm sure lots of you have seen that there. Award-winning cartoon, not cartoon animation, very deep and very symbolic. Well, have you considered that it's a sort of a journey through the human body? Well, go and watch it again. That's exactly what it is. With Christ being reborn through the vagina at the end. So, yep, yep. So another grouping who come in knowing everything and are bringing prior truths into the whole new world, right? So yeah, something wrong there. Because if you haven't on your journey here, pretty much, pretty much overturned every single thought you've had, everyone, then you haven't. Well, you haven't asked enough, or else yeah, you're a player. You're an actor on the stage. You're a lead key. Martin lead key. Yeah, you're a lead key. Martin talks about Tartaria. Well, Aristar, because Tar is right at the very center of Aristarchus. And if you look at that picture I posted earlier on, you're looking at the universe, but you're also looking at the sperm within the egg, which is the Big Bang, right? Which is the creation of the universe. Universe. So it's all encoded. What a wondrous reality. Honestly, I mean, um, what a horrible reality in one sense, but what a wondrous world of possibility and potential that this new flat Earth has opened up for us. For me now, I'm not scared of death. I mean, no more. Well, not in that sense anyway. I think we have to work out what we need to do here, you know. But I'm not scared of death. I know there's so much more beyond. We are in a very limited state here, and there has to be a purpose behind everything. And I think that that's more and more of us are sort of resonating with that. So I think we need to do what we need to do, and that's only for me and you yourself, for me, myself to decide. You know, difficult choices I think have to be made, but I do think we're coming on the end times, if you will. It's all wrapping up, and everything has always been in preparation for that. I mentioned earlier on about Shakespeare. The same hand that wrote the works of Shakespeare also wrote the Bible in around the same time, 1611. There's another 9/11 encoding, but that's because this realm, as we experience it now, is that young, only 10, 15 years earlier, 1598. That's when everything changed. So, according to the story, anyway. I mean, so very, very young indeed. So there's a completely different tale going on. But yeah, lots of clue givers. I talked about Marx Argent being a very big clue giver. Marty Leakey, another big one. Antonio Subarats. I'll ask you this, right? I'll ask you this. Subarats backwards is star I B us. STARIBUS. Subarats backwards. Now he plays a massive role in flat Earth inquiry, and he has done for years now. A very consistent role as well. You know, at the head of much controversy, but different matter. But what are the chances that Subarats is star? I asked you that, Kevin, as well last time, and you said there's no. I agree with you. There's absolutely no room for any coincidence at this stage. Star IBUS RI star cus CHUS. So RI star cus CH. Remember I said church is CHURCH. What might that mean? Well, C has a value of 3. H has a value of 8. 3 times 8 again is 24. 8, 8, 8, 3 8s. So what are the chances? RI star CH us and star I B us. I say nil. But if you didn't have the context and the greater coordination, I guess, between everything, then you might just put that down as a coincidence and overlook it. But I certainly don't anyway. So yeah. I could talk forever, but yeah, that's the sort of thing why I didn't do a hangout as well, because I wouldn't know where to start on which there's so many things I found out, so I wouldn't even know where to start. But yeah, that's why I'm trying to sort of reduce it all down and spit out the basics of where I'm at and what it's all about. Fundamentally, again, to cut to the chase, ultimately it's about ourselves. Ultimately, it's about for the male. Can't speak for the woman again, but when I think about the male, it's all about our bodily fluids, our semen, right? That manna, semen is the manna from heaven. This is the holy bread. All our lives, we are tempted by the beast, by the devil, right, by the material, to rid ourselves of that, our seed, our fruit, right, the fruit of the loins. And yeah, this is for lustful purposes, and that's what it means. Don't spill your seed. This is why I think homosexuality is I was going to say frowned upon in the Bible, but it's completely whatever strong terms you want to use there. It's not because of the act. Whatever people get up to in their own privacy, that's their own business. It's the waste of seed. At least, I'm not going to say at least, but when you're with a woman, something beautiful can come from the unity of male and female, which is the greatest miracle ever, a child. And you don't even need to ejaculate to have a child. You don't need to. This is another message encoded in the birth of Jesus story as well. But yeah, whatever about that, the male and female coming together, coming together, the communion, right, of the two, you consummate the marriage. Yeah, whatever about that. With two males, there's no chance of anything wondrous, so it's all going to be purely a waste, right? In that real sense, if we take that our bodily fluid as that imbued, wondrous substance that it is. It absolutely is, like no more wondrous substance. So ultimately, it all comes down to that. And here we are coming up to Easter Sunday, Ishtar Sunday, Istar Sunday, Aristarchus Sunday, and the Resurrection Sunday. And yeah, it's a physiological process within your body. This is why we fast for Lent as well. When you fast, the whole of your insides absolutely transform. Your stomach acid is completely dried out, right? I think your bowels are closed off. So whatever you absorb into your stomach will immediately, whatever you take into your stomach, will immediately be absorbed into your bloodstream, into the heart, and then pumped up to your head. So semen, the able-bodied semen, have to make the journey. So that's the bottom line. That's what I think that in order for us to transcend, that's what we have to do. I talked about transcend. The Beatles brought transcendental meditation into the West as well, but transcendental meditate. So we have a head above and a head below. We have a penis head, an eye, which is the vagina, which is the penis head, and we have a head above. We have a helmet below. We can put a helmet on above. The bell end, it's all talking about the same thing. So yeah, it has to make the journey and complete the circle. The Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail. So that is the upshot. That is the upshot. I keep thinking to myself, this is the second coming. This is the communion, the 10 commandments. So many other things. There's so many other connections along similar lines. And of course, it makes sense as well. As I said, as males, this is the driving impulse throughout our lives. And females, maybe it's the same, maybe it's a little different, but certainly our sexuality is a massive driving influence for males. And this is what it means not to spill your seed, right? So, like if you have a pint glass and you're bringing it down to your table from the bar, you don't want to spill any of that, right? Because it's meant for consumption, consummate. So that's the upshot of it all for me. But I have no qualms about talking about any of this stuff. I really don't. I think when we pay attention, as I said, especially to the church and the rituals, the Lenten rituals, we have a fasting period, and then you go on to cleansing after receiving the holy bread on Ishtar Sunday. Again, Ishtar, Aristarchus. When you look at Aristarchus, there you can see the sperm within the egg, the genesis of all of us. So yeah. All this stuff is known as well, and it makes sense, doesn't it? It really makes sense when you bring everything back to yourself. And yeah, there's nothing else without. There's nothing else without. Is there? All there is you, my friends. So okay. Okay, trannies everywhere. I don't even mind that anymore. Tyler, I'm not even bothered about that anymore, and. This is this is one of the things we have to let go. We have to sort of go, okay, I thought I knew what normal was, but now it's turning out to be something a little bit different than what I thought. So I'm going to have to let normal go and find out what actually is normal. So when I talk about trannies, I think by true nature, we are all male and female in one. And if you think about God as well, God is indivisible. So God cannot be male or female. It has to be both. And this is indeed what Genesis 1 tells us when we read it in the proper manner. God created man in his image. In his image, God created man, male and female created he, them. In brackets, or unspoken, within one. Within one. So we are in a divided state. Remember I talked about the male genitalia and the female genitalia. One is pulled from the other. Yeah. So I don't even mind about that anymore, but yeah, I'll still make a joke of it, but I'll still also call it, because we're meant to sort of call it out. This is what Antonio Subrets and Patricia Steer being a castrated bull calf. We've been set and led by the nose. So we're always meant to talk about this, and it's by it's by sort of censorship that topics gain momentum, because we all want to know, well, hang on, why are you restricting talk on that particular topic? I need to investigate that a bit more. So again, all apply. Whoever's in control of all of this knows exactly the path that we, as the genuine, conscientious sort of investigator, will follow. Needs must. We'll always be led on to the next revelation, the next greater piece of truth. So just bear that in mind, and you're smarter than all of this, right? This shit is easy for us, so never lose track of that. Okay, I better leave. So here, and you see this what I'm saying? I don't prepare anything, and I can just waffle on for ages. But yeah, any of those things I mentioned, I could spend the show just developing upon. But I definitely want to keep it simple anyway, and I don't intend to be doing like loads more hangouts anyway. Next time I'll go back onto Google Hangouts and be able to share images and prepare something sort of turbulent times here at the minute, to where I'm going to be even tomorrow or the next day, I don't know. My car is grand for the first time in a long time, and yeah, a few difficult decisions to make. So I'm going to play my usual, and hopefully this comes through a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I didn't. I'm a man as well. I said this in chat the other day. I'm a man because I can't multitask. So I can't talk, think, read chat, comment at the same time. So I generally don't tend to go into chat. So no offense to anybody who asked me any questions that I missed. But yeah, our time will come again. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with the usual, and hopefully it comes across okay, and say thanks for tuning in. Until next time, which hopefully won't be too long. I still have to go through the end of Pinocchio. I definitely think I have to finish that. And yeah, a few more things as well. So in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with parting glass, and thanks for tuning in. Oh, of all the money that I spent, I've spent it in good company. Oh, the heart that I did lost, it was too long. All I've done for what I went to marry now, I can't recall. Something to me, a haunting glass might enjoy me with you. Good night, friends. I love you, Steve.